Well, Peter, brief recess there as our our fellow podcaster there ended our stream as he took off. Obviously, wanted to take it with us. You know what? Safe to say that maybe he didn't trust us to carry the show there. But anyways, I'm gonna jump right back onto the Easton Cowan train with you. 32 games. I believe the OHL record the OHL in the last 35 years. I'm just gonna check that stat real quick before I throw it out there. But yeah, the past 30 years since 1994, the longest point streak was Bill Bowler, Bill Bowler, I should say Bowler. So Easton Cowan now at 32 games is tied with Brett McLean of the Oshawa Generals, who did in 2007, 2008. Next up is Dave Gilmore at 33 games, another former London Knight in 93, 94. From there, it's Trevor Letowski at 34 games from 96, 97. And then, of course, Bill Bowler in 94, 95 with 41 games straight. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible what this kid's done. I think it's safe to say that he's going to get a very, very close look heading into next season. But your take on Easton Cowan and what he's been able to bring?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely impressive of what he's able to do. I mean, you just listed off the list of players there, and like the last player to do or he's tied with Jordan Kyrou for the fifth longest point streak in 30 years. I mean, that's absolutely impressive. And I believe it's been the longest one since 07, 08. Brett McLean, yeah, because he had a 32 game run as well in 2007, 2008. So not a whole lot of 30 plus point streaks have been done in the OHL, and only a select few have been able to do it. And what he's able to show right now is Toronto took that risk. They said that they like their competitive game. They like the dog that he has in him. He plays with that intensity. They were confident in taking him 28th overall, and it's now looking like that is the case. And even when we talked about I believe it was about a couple episodes ago where Jason Bacala said that, Easton Cowan could be a higher pick, or that he could be higher up in this class, maybe even higher in the last one as well. If, maybe there is a bit bigger, more or a bigger sample size in regards to his game. But yeah, I mean, what he's doing is just awe-inspiring. Power play, penalty kill, and even Alex said, like, he's doing it all at this point. And not only that, throwing his weight around. I think that was the one thing that people did not expect quite much from him in terms of physicality, but if he's able to lay the boom, he can make a big time hit. And as we just saw, like if you go to the London Knights Twitter, you can see that clip, because he laid the body out and basically just gave like a little look back and be like, yeah, you want some of this too. So he's got that intensity. He's got that kind of like, I don't know. I'm not going to go to lengths to call him Brad Marchand, but he's got that mindset to kind of get under the opposition's skin. Not going as far as Brad, but he can do that. He can,
he won't lick faces, is what you're saying. He won't lick faces and kiss other players and whatever else.
Didn't want to bring up Brad Marchand's history, but yeah. I mean, exactly. But this is what you need. You need those pesky in your face players, and he can do it all. And that's amazing of what he's able to accomplish. And you know what? There's going to be a really strong debate whether the OHL is going to be too easy for him next year, because he's still too young for the A. It seems like it's NHL or nothing for Easton basically next season, because if he gets sent back down, he's going to light it up with 110, 120 points. And that seemed to be like, we basically said, I mean, can't remember what he's on pace for right now, but he's basically 88 points, or top 10 in the OHL right now. So when we basically were starting off, or even when we're talking with Kyle, who does stuff with the London Knights as well, we were anticipating at least 100 points. He's at 97 or on pace right now. So it's still within range. And if he has strong results down this stretch, it definitely could be one where, next season is going to be an absolute cakewalk if he gets sent down, because it seems like it's NHL for him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, remember too that this kid was away from the OHL for a little bit at the World Juniors, playing for Canada, representing his country on the international stage as well. So
Missed the first few
um,
weeks as well.
missed the first few weeks as he's still with the Maple Leafs. So with that said, yes, he's in seventh right now in the OHL scoring race. 88 points through 50 games. No player ahead of him in the race right now has played even close to 50 games. The only one being Carson Rickoff with Kitchener, who's played 55 games. So five games higher than Easton Cowan's total. The top three have played 59 games or more, and he's sitting 13 points back of the number one spot. Safe to say that he still has a solid shot at being a 100-point scorer if he were to have played every game this season.
Mhm.
You mentioned the physicality. You mentioned Bukala's comment on the fact that this could be a guy that brings that Darcy Tucker type of mentality back to the Leafs. I love the fact that he plays with an edge. I love the fact that
Mhm.
he plays with some physicality. It's something that the Leafs need. His size is very underrated in terms of what he can do with it. He's very strong on his feet, and it'll be interesting to see what opportunities he gets in the next year or so. But again, this brings up the debate of the CHL versus the AHL. Once you're too good for the CHL, what kind of development you get at that level?
Yeah.
And I mean, Easton Cowan is a perfect example of a guy that, you know, his development will stall at a certain point when he's
Mhm.
playing at the OHL level. So,
You just also mentioned his size too, 5'11", 185. I mean, that's
not a
basically
big boy.
that's average, height. But imagine if he gets to 6 feet, and then if he adds a couple more pounds of muscle, like what if he gets to 6 feet, 190? I mean,
Mhm.
that's absolutely going to work in his favor, especially if he's got that bulk to him. That's going to be very impressive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And one more thing
Um,
too. One more thing too. This is a good reason to bring this up. It's the reason why Treliving did not want to move on from Easton at all, because he basically said with the season that he's having right now, and this is from Terry Koshin, heck of a year and he's a heck of a player. There was no thought of moving Easton.
yeah, yeah,
Basically summed
absolutely.
it up right there.
Absolutely. BJ, good job, boys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in as always.
Thank you.
Quick comment from a YouTube viewer as well. Leafs versus Bruins, round one would make me happy. I think it would make a lot of people happy in the hockey world. Leaf fans, it would cause
Not so much.
PTSD. It would cause a lot of PTSD. But at some point they need to slay the demon, and this is a year where they don't have Bergeron,
Hmm.
they don't have Krejci. um it is a different Bruins team, albeit they are still a very strong Bruins team. So
They
that
slayed
said,
one.
it'd be a hell of a series.
Yeah, they slayed one dragon last year in Tampa Bay. Got to do the same with Boston.
Yeah,
I don't think it. Again, it's going to be very tough. I think the Bruins may take it, but if the Maple Leafs surprise me, then this team really is all in with their mentality.
yeah, I mean, the way the playoffs are set up, not being 1 to 8, you're going to be either Tampa Bay, Florida, or Boston, no matter what, over the next number of years. Dylan jumped in again. Canucks versus Leafs in the finals. Let's go. We need the cup back in Canada.
I
I
am, yeah.
100% agree with that.
Oh yeah.
I 100% agree. The one I don't I wouldn't I obviously don't want to see Montreal win it. I obviously don't want to see Ottawa win it. Um
After what
Winnipeg,
happened in 2011, I do feel bad for Vancouver.
yeah, Vancouver I would love to see.
Yeah.
I think it's a franchise that definitely deserves a little bit of credit. Winnipeg, I'm kind of indifferent. I know Calgary's not even looking at sniffing a playoff spot right now.
Hmm.
So that's kind of out of the question. And really, I don't want to see Edmonton win it before the Leafs. I do not want to see McDavid get one before the Leafs. But that's just me. I'm not a McDavid hater.
But a
I
Toronto
like
Edmonton matchup would be fun.
it. Would be incredible. It'd be
That's
incredible.
the
So
ideal matchup right there.
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I want to jump back to the Leafs from Easton Cowan for a second here, because we quickly before Alex shut us down, I had mentioned that Matthews hasn't scored in a few games here, and I saw your tweet as saying, Matthews just looks a little different.
Mhm.
How much of it is just like, maybe relief or frustration even that there wasn't a lot done at the deadline, and maybe that's playing into it, or there's a whole lot of things that it could be. It might not particularly be an injury. That said, he has taken a few big bumps over the last little bit as well. What's your take on Matthews? Or this 70-goal season is slowly slipping away.
Yeah, if it was an injury, they definitely probably would have said something. If he is playing through something, it would probably be a very big mistake. But at the same time, it's like, see, he was making poor decisions that he never usually makes. That was my thing. Like, some of the mistakes or plays that he's pulling off is like, you would never have done that like 2-3 weeks ago, beginning of the season, mid season. He just kind of feels like, one of those, like, bumps in the road, one of those lulls, and it was bound to happen at some point. But when I know everyone's expected 70 goals, we all want to see it, but you know what, if he's just having this little bit of a rough patch, at least if he's healthy and he's 100% and he's ready to go for the playoffs, that's all that matters at this point. As much as I still love to see 70, if it means losing that as opposed to still just being healthy, I'd rather take Matthews being healthy, because we all, at this point, we all know he could be on pace to score 70. It is realistic. It's just, finding that consistency, and it is tough in this league. It really is, but he's been the only one to try and do so since, Ovi had his, stretch of being a hot scorer as well. So I hope he's able to overcome it. I just hope he's healthy, because let's face it, we're in this final stretch right now. We need everyone to be on point.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't mind the fact that it's happening now. You mentioned how, like, there'd be a rut at some point, and obviously, you don't want to see that when you're on pace for 75 goals, and on pace to win your third Hart, or sorry, your second Hart, your third Rocket Richard. But at the same time, you want to see it now. You want to have that now prior to the playoffs than going into the playoffs with a cold superstar and him not being able to put the puck in the net, especially against a team like Boston, if that happens to be the first round. The Leafs, they're not in the clear yet when it comes to the playoffs, but they're getting there, and they've almost solidified their spot, and because of that, like, we need to see what the depth scoring can provide for this team. Otherwise, we're going into the playoffs with the same storyline that we have the last number of years, where it's going to fall on the shoulders of the core four, and that's not what you want either.
Some breaking news. You know who just solidified his spot? Bobby McMahon re-signs with the Leafs, 2-year contract extension. AAV of $1.3 million.
Wow.
Big congrats to Bobby right now.
That's a steal.
Yeah.
And I have 2 boxes of Upper Deck Series 4 or Series 2 upstairs where you can get his Young Guns. So let's
There
get
you
that
go.
Young Guns.
That Young Gun's going to go up right now.
Let's
I'm
get
telling
that
you.
Young Guns, baby. I think Fraser Mitten's Young Guns in there as well. So that'll be fun. But yeah, congratulations to Bobby McMahon. That's huge news, and obviously, we love breaking news here on Sticks in the Six as well. So there you go, Peter. Way to go, buddy. Way to go. Yeah, aside from that, let's jump ship from the Leafs real quick. Actually, sorry, we do have a little bit of Marlies talk, but before we do get into that, Bobby McMahon, undrafted, unsigned, or signed with the Leafs, and now has a big league contract, 2 years, 1.3 AAV. He bet on himself, and what better way to do that than with our sponsors at DraftKings?
Perfect timing for that.
Perfect timing. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 instantly in bonus bets. If you look at the futures now, it's not Florida like it was a couple weeks ago. You're looking at Vegas as potentially one of the favorites with Thomas Hertl coming back. You've got Mark Stone will likely be back at some point. Let's be honest. Cap circumvention is the biggest thing in the NHL right now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get 200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights are reserved. Well, before we jump into a little bit of NHL sprinkled news in there, we got to talk about the Joey Dusick and the Kyle Clifford fight that took place with the Marlies the other night. Obviously, Joey Dusick was a guy that was with the Marlies at one point, was in the Toronto system. There was some speculation that he kind of quit on the Marlies heading into the playoffs. Was it last year? I believe last year. And because of that, obviously there's a little bit of let's call it a frayed history between the two, between the franchise and Dusick. Obviously he scores, as any former Leaf does, scores against his former club, the Marlies, and does his little circle in front of the bench, kind of pointing at the Marlies as he went by. Something was said to him. He turned back. Next chance they got, Kyle Clifford was going right at him. Dusick turtles, as anyone would. I want to get your take on this.
If you have to showboat in front of your former team's bench, you should expect an answer right away, or someone to come knocking on your door and be like, "Hey, yo, you got to answer for what you did." Literally, that's what happened. Obviously, it was the man himself. It was Kyle Clifford, and he goes after him, and he basically ducks and turtles. I mean, if you have to do that and you can't back up what you did, you are definitely in the wrong. I don't care if it was Clifford, if it was anybody else. If someone came after you after basically taunting the bench like that, you deserve everything that you get. Is basically the same thing that's going to happen in the NHL. We've seen it happen with Nick Cousins, how so many times something's happened to him, he ducks and turtles and then gets right back up and catches people off guard. And then you see Dusick smile about it afterwards, like kind of you knew what he was doing. And you know what? To me, that's basically not necessarily gutless, but you're just doing yourself a disservice by not holding up to what you've done and taking accountability for your actions. If someone's calling you and if someone's coming after you and they want to drop the gloves with you, and if you thought that you were in the right to, celebrate like that in front of your former team's bench, you got to make the call. You have to basically stand up for yourself and at least give that effort of, show that you're not backing down from a fight. He didn't even do that. So that's where I stand with that. I honestly think that was, I don't understand what I'm not inside his head. Don't know what his intentions were, but it did not come across as, very genuine. And you saw everybody on the bench stand up and took exception to that. And you know what? When Clifford's on the ice, you better watch your back, basically.
Can we talk about how Clifford let up? Like, I mean,
he did. He just basically one punch and that was it.
One punch, he went down and he put his knee kind of on him and obviously said something to Dusick. To me, like, you're going to have the anti-fighters that are out there that kind of like rip on this idea, but that was a lesson, man. Like that was him just basically saying like, here's, you want to be a young kid in the game. This was a veteran move. This was me going after you saying, next time you do that, I'm going to pound your face in. And you have to imagine that Dusic's going to think twice about it next time he does it. I understand the idea of you want to hand it to your former franchise, but at the same time, act like you've been there, right? Like this is the whole
Yeah.
idea about like act like you've been there. This was the class, like it was such a classless move. And I mean, it's not like he's a superstar that's going to be called up at some point. Like this is a guy that had a falling out with the team that had his rights, and he decides to go and throw it in their face
Showboat like
after
that.
he
Yeah.
scores. Like, we're not talking about you're 26 years old playing in the AHL. Like, you got 29 points in 46 games, 7 goals. Like, you're not a superstar, man. Like, it's I don't know. I just didn't feel right about the whole situation. And then when Clifford went after him, I'm like, at the end of the day, like Clifford's been to the show. Like he's been around the block, man. Like I don't mind taking it into his own hands. It creates accountability. It allows for policing in the game. And this is exactly what we talk about every time we talk about whether fighting has a place in the game.
Yeah.
It's exactly what this is the reason why they have it. This is the reason why fights happen in hockey.
I'm curious to know what happened, because in 21-22 he had 52 points, didn't play in the playoffs, and then after that he plays for Dynamo Minsk in the KHL, and then comes back here.
So that's what I was saying. I think there was some
doesn't make
talk.
Sense.
Yeah, there was some talk. I'll have to look it up, and I mean I can bring it up next pod, but there was some talk that he basically like quit on the team before like heading into playoffs. So this was there was conversation. I'd love to find it. I'd love to get into it now. But yeah, I can't remember who had tweeted it out. So it says back to when Dusick was a member of the Marlies and was publicly and very publicly
for final game, and they were shorthanded as a result.
Quit on his team. Yeah, he was not a popular guy in the room then, and obviously he's not a popular guy in Toronto now. Yeah, 2 years ago, Dusick refused to dress for the Marlies' final game of the season, and they had to play short. He also left the arena before the end of the game and never showed up to another Marlies event until he was released shortly after. Then here, after scoring the goal, he goes straight to the Marlies bench and starts taunting. Yeah, so there you go. So
yeah, so then you know what? Like, I want to know what your reason was to not dress and to leave your team hanging like that.
To be honest, I don't even care. Here's the thing: what player came to his defense on his squad?
No one, basically.
It's pretty telling.
Yeah,
it's pretty telling. When you got a guy like Kyle Clifford coming at you and nobody on your team comes to your defense, it's pretty telling on what kind of person you are in the room. And
that's fine. You got to answer the call for your actions.
Absolutely.
Basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyways, before we shut it down here, Peter, we want to talk about your new favorite NHLer, Rempe.
All of our favorite new NHL player?
Yeah, in New York. The Rangers have big 6'7" Rempe. He's wreaking havoc on the league in terms of the physicality and fighting. Outside of that, hasn't done much for his team, for the league. Anyways, he was suspended for 4 games for an elbow to Siegenthaler against New Jersey. It was a very clear elbow, very clear target of the head. I want to get your take before I throw my 2 cents into it.
I mean, Curtis McDermott basically said it right then and there. Lost a lot of respect for him because it was a good story for the first 3 games or so. Basically saying, he's coming in, he's trying to make an impact, he's fighting. Okay, fine, whatever. But now we need to see him actually play hockey, and he's not doing any of that. He's got 2 points, I believe, in 9 or 10 games. He's averaging 5 minutes of ice time, and all you're doing is showing that you could just only run around, hit, and take people's heads off. That is not hockey at all. And if you want to stay in the NHL, you got to do more than just that. we saw him leaving his feet against Ilya Labushkin, and Rempe's a big guy. He doesn't need to jump up and leave his feet and hit Labushkin in the neck and head area, because that is a blatant charge, and I'm surprised that there was no call. But, of course, NHL officiating. And then he goes out and does something like this. But if you're just going around doing stupid moves and stupid plays like this, then there is no spot for you in the NHL. I get you want to make an impact. I get you want to keep a spot. But you got to show more that what you're doing right now, you're not just a one-trick pony. And I even told, when we were doing a live stream, I even talked to Kyle about this. Like, it's great. You want to show that you're, physical. You want to be dominant. Other enforcers or other tough guys have taken note of that. But you got to do more. And to me, he hasn't shown that at all. And with the suspension, I'm surprised this is only his first one, because there are a few ones in the past that easily could have got him suspended. And again, we're picking our battles here. Morgan Rielly got 6 games for a cross check to the head that didn't amount to anything. And now he gets 4 games for an actual hit to the head. So
I'm glad you touched on that, because if you had gone
you
through
could take the
your
floor right
entire
now.
piece,
That was my ending speech. You could take the floor.
If you had gone through your entire piece and didn't touch on the fact that Morgan Rielly got 5 games for a cross check versus what was
5 games, sorry, not 6, sorry, but 5.
Yeah.
Still.
Was a clear targeted elbow to the head. Can we circle back to when Ty Domi targeted Scott Niedermayer's head in the playoffs and what he got suspended?
Yeah.
Can we look at that for a second? Can we look at the Morgan Rielly suspension this year? The 5 games he got for cross-checking on a showboating play, and can we go back to
no injury resulted?
No injury resulted. And now can we go back to the Rempe hit where it was a clear elbow to the forehead of Siegenthaler, caused an injury, and he only gets 4 games?
Yep.
And on his way out, he's waving goodbye.
Well, you know what? The Rangers got to make a choice too. Like, this is a guy that's probably going to hurt your team more in the playoffs than anything.
Is that what the NHL wants?
Yeah.
That you would rather some 6'7" Sasquatch giant go up and elbow players in the face than a cross check that rolled up the shoulder and got the guy in the neck and chin. This league is so backwards.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. This is George Peros at his finest.
This is what we talked about. This is not Leaf fans bitching at this point. This is what we were talking about when we were saying we need consistency. That's it. How do you understand the rules of what's okay and what's not if there's zero consistency? And everyone's going to come back and say, it was 1 game difference. Oh, the 4 games to 5 games. What are you bitching and moaning about? Consistency. That's what I'm bitching about. I want consistency. I don't want there to be a gray area when somebody smokes another player in the face that, well, we're going to, it's a 4-game suspension just because, you've only played 3 games in the NHL. So you don't really know what's best. No,
that is the biggest cop out ever.
No, if you've only played 3 games in the NHL and you're clearly a one-trick pony, then you should be getting 10 games. If you've played 700 games like Morgan Rielly and you've never been suspended in your entire life,
that deserves more the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
Even if you got 1 or 2 games, fine, whatever. But to give him at least 5 when that gets less than that, again, it's a joke.
Everything about that situation was backwards. But it gave us something to talk about, something to close out the episode, and something for me to get passionate about. It's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a long time without Leaf hockey, so.
It has. Anyways, the Leafs do get back into action tomorrow night, Thursday. Again, we apologize for the hiccup this afternoon and our part 1 and part 2. Hopefully you tune into both. Hopefully you get a chance to watch both. Yeah. If you want to find the other part of this episode, go down there, right down there to YouTube at Sticks in the Six. Give us a subscription. We've always got content coming out weekly. We run right through the summer. We're a lot of fun. We're even willing sometimes to get you fans on there to talk about your grievances. But otherwise, make sure you check us out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Add on Instagram, on TikTok. We're right across the board on socials. Make sure you shoot us a follow. And as always, on behalf of the Hockey Podcast Network and Indie Ale House DraftKings as well, thank you for tuning in this week to 153. We'll be back next week getting ready for 154 and hopefully a little more juicy content to talk about with our Toronto Maple Leafs. Until next week, thanks for tuning in. Go Leafs, go.